Welcome to the Season 1, Episode 4 retro review of Penny Dreadful Demimonde, as dictated to us by these tarot cards. I feel like these episodes are really ramping up, so without too much preamble, I'm just going to go ahead, cut the deck, pick out our cards, and we'll get right into it. The Fool, the Eight of Bats, making a return from Episode 1, and the Five of Imps. And if I were going to give a first impressions take without looking at each one individually, I would say this reading is going to end up being a lot about Ethan Chandler. So let's start this journey off with the Fool. This is an interesting card to pull at the beginning of pretty much any journey because it's also the first card in the major arcana. It's showcasing someone who is on their journey, someone youthful, inexperienced, not quite knowledgeable, really excited to go on this journey, but not 100% aware of all the danger or even really paying that much attention. As we can see, the Fool here is about to fall off of this cliff. And he's just not looking at where he's going. He's too busy looking at his juggling up here, which could indicate someone who's doing more performance work than they are actually paying attention to what's going on. Or it could indicate someone who's too busy packing and planning and anticipating success in the future to pay attention to their present set of danger or what the real and actual trials and tribulations will be going forward. Basically, it showcases someone coming into something new with a lack of experience, bright fresh eyes, ready to go for it, but not quite there when it comes to having everything they need knowledge base wise to be successful. If we're discussing this Fool character, it could be referring to a lot of our current characters. I'm thinking Ethan Chandler because he's agreed to go on this journey. He's sworn to the company in Episode 3, but he's still very squeamish when it comes to hurting Fenton, which sort of suggests he doesn't understand that Fenton is a monster. Or maybe he does get it in the same way that we're going to find out Ethan's a little bit of a monster, and because they're both monstrous, some of the time he has empathy for them. Additionally, he's got this desire to take care of Rona right now. He's taking her out on dates, maybe even trying to figure out a way to get money for medicine for her, thinking that it's possible she could be cured and go on to live a full life. All this is very optimistic, very beginning of the journey, foolhardy, having all those balls up in the air he's juggling, having all those plans going on, but not really understanding the treachery that's before him, the serious amount of work and things he's going to have to surrender to make this a reality. I could also put this Fool card in for Vanessa Ives right now. In this particular episode, she's becoming more curious about Dorian Gray. She follows him to the greenhouse, learns about plants and stuff in a way that I think Dorian Gray means to make sound deep, but is incredibly shallow and basic. And then Victoria goes on to the theater specifically to meet up with him by chance and I guess continue to flirt. And she doesn't realize what a depraved little psycho he is. At this juncture in the story, it feels a lot like Vanessa Ives is kind of being taken advantage of by Dorian Gray. I do think that there'll be later interpretations to Vanessa Ives' infatuation with Dorian Gray and their relationship that is more equal footing. But in this episode in particular, it does feel a little bit like the first flush of love, that kind of innocence, naivety when you're getting to know someone and you just have a good vibe. Rolling me into this 8 of Bats here. Now we did see this card already in episode 1 review, but just as like a little refresh here, we've got the woman who is being bound up by all these bats. They're kind of like restricting her movements, giving her limited ability to move forward, create plans, or escape. She was already kind of restricted because she's been blindfolded from the start, as this is like the same woman that you would see in the traditional 2 of Bats in this deck. But instead of moving through with intuition or blind faith, now she has like significantly more limited options, and even if she were to start moving, she's on like this rocky island outcropping. Any choice she makes, except for this very narrow path, is going to lead her to her doom. And talking about the 8 of Bats when it comes to Penny Dreadful, I would say we're looking at the Fenton situation specifically, where the team is trying to get the hematologist, which is like a star guest appearance from Van Helsing, to create a cure for vampirism, just in case Mina has already transformed. They're kind of like keeping Fenton, hoping they find a way to cure him via transfusions. I don't know if they know it until the end of this episode, but they're playing a very dangerous game with Fenton because he's here at the behest of the Master Vampire. The Master comes, thankfully Vanessa Ives is out at the theater at the time, and the Master Vampire manages to scare everybody and escape, and in all this tumult, Fenton gets murdered, which leaves our characters way more restricted than they previously thought, and is like symbolizing all these bats here, kind of binding them up and limiting their choices and making them in more peril than they were before, because now the Master knows exactly where their base is. He kind of has an idea what their plans are. He has no reason to send another servant out to them, so this like hard stops all their experimentation. And because it seems like Sir Malcolm and Vanessa Ives kind of hate each other, both of them are not being fully truthful, and in some ways they're kind of like binding and blinding each other and making it harder for both of them to work together as a cohesive unit. And then last but not least, let's talk about this 5 of Imps card. Now at first it probably looks like a tumultuous card because we have all of these imps here with staffs out, fighting each other, beating each other up. And that probably feels like a lot of violence or whatever, but it's more a card about energy and release. So in this case, this is like the imps taking action to stave off boredom. And I would say in a lot of ways episode 4 kind of embodies that because it does feel to me a lot like a filler episode. We are building on different character beats we've seen before. For example, we've like accelerated the Brona Chandler Ives relationship and then moved it into a breakup. And we are moving forward with that Vanessa Ives, Dorian Gray sexual tension into a flirtatious meeting at the theater. But even though I enjoy the whole behind the scenes theater element, in front of the stage theater element, along with like the grotesque sort of mockery we see put on stage that like is harkening back to a possible werewolf in our midst real time in the show too, we could do without this theater moment and the story would be largely the same. We could do without the rat race situation where Chandler Ives and Dorian Gray go off to like have a dog fight and kill a bunch of rats and then they end up hooking up. Like none of this really relates to the story we've been telling so far, and I don't know that it's going to relate at all to the story going forward. Plethora of energy and movement and stuff happening, but it has no larger purpose. There isn't a war going on or a battle of sorts. These aren't a bunch of plot moments that I think we're going to be able to harken back to later and make meaning out of. It's just like a lot of noise. Which brings me to looking at all 3 of these cards as a full reading. I think this makes a lot of sense. Like we go in with the best of intentions, our company has been founded, we're going to cure Fenton. Chandler Ives has finally decided to stay, he's got like a great relationship going on with Brona, he's going to treat her really well and like have something go on here. We get to the problem part of the episode. Fenton manages to escape and in the process of trying to recapture him, he dies, which sets us further back than we were before. Or Chandler Ives takes Brona to this theater thing she wanted to do. She really enjoys it, except then she runs into Dorian Gray, and Vanessa Ives feels very threatened and ashamed of who and what she is, and sort of breaks up with Chandler for his own good. If we're talking about the episode as a whole and what's going on, the Fenton thing is a little bit relevant because it shows that we're not gonna go down the route of like finding a cure for vampirism vampirism and that the entry of Van Helsing is not going to be that important. But other than those aspects, there's just a lot of movement for the sake of movement. Vanessa talking to that young girl at the cold open and talking about how people who are dead don't stay dead doesn't really mean anything, even though at first it feels ominous. Her chasing down Dorian Gray, starting this flirtation, like it establishes that Dorian Gray is very interested in her and finds her mysterious, but we already knew that from episode 2 Seance. Dorian Gray hooking up with Ethan Chandler shows that both of them are bisexual, but we had kind of a lot of hints of that already with Dorian Gray. I think we might have been able to find a different way to show that with Ethan Chandler. I don't know. I don't even know if it's necessarily important that he has bi representation at this juncture. Overall, I would say we go in thinking we're going to learn more. Some of our plans are further restricted. We end the episode feeling a little bit empty, like this was just movement for the sake of movement. Which leaves me here at the end of episode 4, Demimonde, feeling like this might have been one of the lesser of the episodes. Visually it's stunning, it's still doing interesting things and giving us little details and tidbits on characters, which I love a good character build, but I don't think story-wise, larger arc, this is one that you need to see to understand the breadth of the story. But talk to me in those comments down below. What do you feel about Penny Dreadful episode 4 Demimonde, and how do you feel about these cards representing the plot beats? And if you're enjoying these reviews via tarot cards, let me know in the comments down below with a little thumbs up. And as always, keep reading.